This is the Harry Loomis Show. Welcome back to the Harry Loomis Show. Today is July 30th. It is 1:33 here in Columbus, Ohio. Couple of news pieces we want to talk about today. First off, the big news yesterday, Macklin Celebrini signing. He is now the highest paid player in the National Hockey League. Eat your heart out, Leo Carlsson. $18.8 million per year on his 5-year contract. And I got to tell you, even as the highest paid player in the league, Macklin Celebrini is worth every penny to a team like the San Jose Sharks. I think he is on the very short list of most valuable players to their team. And I think if there was a fantasy draft, NHL style, you had the first overall pick to build your franchise around. You have any player in the league. I'm taking Macklin Celebrini, 115 or so points, his second year in the league, does everything. Looks like a mini Sidney Crosby the way he plays all ends of the ice. That's obviously a high bar, but I think the ceiling is that high for Celebrini based on what we've seen. He's worth every penny. That contract is going to age beautifully, especially for a team like the Sharks who have a lot of young pieces, who have a lot of cap space. I got no problem with that contract for San Jose. But it leaves me wondering about one big bridge contract coming up for the Blues, one Jimmy Snuggerud. He is coming into the last year of his entry level contract. And this is really the first time I can remember in a long time a player's first real contract being such a talking point for the Blues, which is pretty exciting. That means that you got a really good young player and you want to make sure he's on your team for years to come. This used to be pretty standard practice, signing a bridge 3, 4, 5 year contract. Guys like Thomas, guys like Kyrou, guys like Jake Neighbors, Joel Hofer signed around that $2 to $3 million range. And that was it. You talked again a couple years later as they continue to develop. But entry level contracts they seem different now than ever before. And I don't know if I blame Pat Verbeek or Danny Briere for that. The reason why is because if you have to pinpoint it, it's Leo Carlsson. The Ducks were in a really bad situation this offseason, and they still are because they haven't signed Cutter Gauthier, but they were vulnerable, and Haverbeek went on record saying they will match any offer sheet that any of their restricted free agents, specifically Leo Carlsson, would sign because Cutter Gauthier couldn't sign one. And right around the 4th of July, Danny Briere said, all right, put your money where your mouth is, and offered Carlsson 5 years at $18 million. Kirill Kaprizov makes $17 million. And let's be real, in 2026, he's Kirill Kaprizov and Leo Carlsson is Leo Carlsson. On paper, no context, it's an egregious contract for Leo Carlsson, a player who I really like, but is not worth $18 million to the Ducks or really to any team at this point in his career. And depending on how much the cap surges, depending on how much he blossoms the next 5 years, I have a hard time believing he will be worth $18 million 5 years from now. But this is exactly what those offer sheets are supposed to do. They're supposed to put strain on the GM who is put in that tough situation. Pat Verbeek put himself in a really bad situation, but he had no choice. You had to match that offer sheet. And so they did. But now entry level contracts, players on them, their second contract is just going through the roof. So I want to look at the numbers for Jimmy Snuggerud and kind of compare him to some other players to see what kind of contract he's looking at, because I have a hot take. It depends on when he signs, obviously. If the Blues were smart, they would do it now. If Jimmy Snuggerud was smart, he would wait a little bit. I think Jimmy Snuggerud is going to be the first Blues player to sign for over $10 million per year. And I know that sounds crazy. Robert Thomas is the highest paid Blues player at $8.125 million. That's a huge jump from 8.125. But the thing that you have to remember is that that was signed under a new GM. Doug Armstrong, he paid his top guys what they made. Everyone else wasn't going to make as much as them, Thomas and Kyrou. And that was that. That was understood. Now that Alex Steen is the GM, it's a clean slate. All bets are off. Looking at the numbers, Jimmy Snuggerud had 21 goals last year in 70 games. He had 169 shots on goal. It's around a 12% shooting percentage. Good, but not bad. And you know, a guy like Jimmy Snuggerud, with the shot that he has, can shoot higher than 12%. He had a slow start to the year. So that is an average of 2.4 shots on goal per game. Let's just say he gets that up to 3 shots on goal per game. Do you think he can do that? Because I think he can do that. In 84 games, 3 shots on goal, assuming he plays a whole 84. is 252 shots on goal. Let's say he shoots 13.1%. That is Jordan Kyrou's career shooting percentage. And I think Jimmy Snuggerud is a better shooter than Jordan Kyrou personally. If he shoots at that clip, he is a 33 goal player next year. But the second half of his season, the last 35 games, he shot 14.4%. At that clip, if he shoots 14.4% for the season, which is a high bar, but attainable for a guy like Jimmy Snuggerud, all of a sudden you have a 36 goal player. Now, I think the best comparable to a 36 goal player, if that's what Jimmy Snuggerud becomes, is Pavel Dorofeyev. He was on a bridge contract with the Golden Knights that he signed, I believe, 2 years ago at about $1.4 million. 25 season, he puts up 35 goals. 26 season, he puts up 37 goals. And he immediately gets traded to the New York Rangers. A great deal for the Rangers, by the way. I think that's exactly the kind of player that they are getting or that they should be looking for. And he signs a contract that is paying him over $11 million, right at $11 million. Now, that is 2 years of production versus 1 year of production potentially with Jimmy Snuggerud. Best case scenario. It depends on how long the Blues want to sign him, I believe. If he signs a 2, 3 year deal, I wouldn't love that for the Blues, but they would be able to save some money. I believe he would still have restricted free agency years left, so that you could make that work, but then it's a tough situation 2 to 3 years from now. What's he going to be worth if you try to sign him to a max contract, assuming he continues to develop? All of a sudden, you're looking at a $12 million, $13 million player, not even taking into account what some guys could sign. Who knows what a guy like Matthew Schaefer is going to sign for next year when he's eligible to sign his next contract. Celebrini and Cutter Gauthier both signed their contracts for 5 years at those 18 plus $1 million deals. Obviously, Jimmy Snuggerud isn't a Leo Carlsson or a Macklin Celebrini just yet, but all of these entry level players, guys that are high end, which Snuggerud finished fifth in Calder voting, that's not nothing. They're going to be getting paid more than they would have been getting paid a couple years ago. I always think for young players, it's best to sign them for as long as you can, as early as you can. Try to get the cap hit down as low as possible. Robert Thomas getting the 8 year deal at $8.125 million was great work by Doug Armstrong. That was his first year of true number one center production, 21-22, his first year over a point per game. And he locked him up. If he signed him to a 3 year contract, let's say, and he was due again in after the 23-24 season when he put up 86 points, or no, it would have been the 24-25 season when he put up 80 points in 70 games. He's getting more than $8 million per season without a question. You've got him locked up on one of the best contracts in the league, in my opinion. I think that's got to be the recipe. And, players aren't stupid. Agents aren't stupid. They know what the GMs are going to try to get. They got to get their players. They got to get themselves as much money as possible. So there is a little bit of give and take there. Again, it all depends on when Snuggerud signs. If the Blues talk to him around March, around the trade deadline, and he is on a 36 goal pace, let's say things go well for him, and you sign him to that 5, 6 year deal, I think it's going to be about $10 million per season. That gets him to about his age 28, 29 season. He will be in the prime of his career. That'll be his chance to make big bucks, get a 6 year deal at huge money in free agency at that point in time. And I think that would be best for both parties. There's also the conversation that leaves the Blues in a crazy spot 5, 6 years from now when guys like Thomas, like Holloway, like McTavish, like McMichael, like Broberg, like Buchnevich are all going to be up at around the same time. But that's a problem for another day. You got to get these guys signed. And I think the sooner Snuggerud signs, the better it'll be. And the longer he signs, the better it'll be for everybody. Secondly, a topic I want to talk about real quickly is the Blues' vacant captaincy. A really good quote that Jamie Rutherford got. Good article on Robert Thomas in The Athletic. Robert Thomas on offseason conversations with GM Alexander Steen. I feel like such a big part of leadership in trying to build something special here, whether that's now or in a couple years. That was a big part in it. Do you see me a part in that? And how quickly do you think we can build things? We sat down and linked on a lot of details that we found really important for ourselves and the team, and a lot of them matched. I would say we both agreed on a path moving forward. I read that, and if I didn't think it already, I thought that sounds like the captain of the St. Louis Blues. I think Robert Thomas has all the leadership skills. He plays the way on ice like a captain should. He's not the physical guy like Braden Shen, but he's the all-around responsible captain like Ryan O'Reilly was. I think he has the faith of the GM. I think he obviously has the faith in the coach, and he's under contract. He doesn't seem like he wants to go anywhere despite the rumors this past season. I think he's going to wear the C. There's no reason for me to believe the Blues shouldn't name him captain anytime soon. But then a contrasting report, according to Andy Strickland on his Cam and Strick podcast with Cam Jansen, the Blues will probably not have a captain this season, which that was really surprising to me. My question is why? If you think Robert Thomas is the captain, which I do, and I think a lot of people do, what are you waiting for? This isn't a Connor Bedard situation where you know he's going to be the future captain, but he's not ready yet. So you bring in a guy like Nick Foligno to wear the C and kind of take some of the heat off his shoulders with the young Blackhawks team. Robert Thomas is 27. He's been the Blues' best player since, I mean, it's depends who you ask. In my opinion, at least since 2023, maybe since 2022. He is the face of the franchise, I believe, and I think he's ready for the responsibility. He's worn a letter for many years. When Braden Shen got traded last year, a lot of guys kind of stepped up more so in leadership roles, among them Bennington, Parayko, Robert Thomas. I think he's the guy. And if you think he is the guy, at some point, why isn't he going to be the guy now? And with those conversations, doesn't that feel like part of the commitment and part of the reason why the Blues value him so much? Like Doug Armstrong said, no one in the league values Robert Thomas more than I do. Alex Steen was a teammate of his. He won a Stanley Cup with him Thomas's rookie year. You don't think he values that guy? I don't know. I just don't see a logical reason why Thomas wouldn't be named the captain unless the Blues simply do not see him as a captain. But it's very unlike the Blues not to name a captain. Even when they didn't have great captain options, Shane Corson, I believe, wore the C a little bit after Brett Hull before Chris Pronger. Dallas Drake was captain. He wasn't the best player in the world. He was a heart and soul guy. Even Eric Brewer got named captain. I still remember my dad's laugh when that got named. One of the most random picks ever, really. Obviously, the Blues have had some great captains. David Backes was a great captain. Alex Pietrangelo was a great captain. Thomas seems like he has everything you want in a captaincy. I don't know. It might not be much to look into, and the Blues typically wouldn't don't do this until training camp starts. I wouldn't expect a random press conference in the middle of the offseason, but it feels an like the Blues are just overthinking it if they don't give it to Robert Thomas this year. Again, not the biggest issue in the world, in my opinion, but what do you guys think about it? Do the Blues name a captain this year? Is it Robert Thomas? Is it someone else? Why should it be Thomas? Why shouldn't it be Thomas? Let me know what you guys think. And let me know, what would you sign Jimmy Snuggerud to? Do you think he's worth $10 million a year? Maybe not now. Do you think he will be in 5, 6 years? My answer is yes. Let me know what you guys think. I started an Instagram channel as well. It's the Harry Loomis Show on Instagram. I post some clips from this show onto that account. So keep following. We're gonna try to have some more content exclusively onto that site as well. But big things are coming. I hope to keep this train rolling as long as I can. But I appreciate you guys watching once again. We'll talk soon. This is the Harry Loomis Show.